Thanks for joining me today. My presentation focuses on the recognition and measurement of internally generated software as it pertains to TI and complies with AASB 138. So, as of introduction, to begin, TI is a forward-thinking technology company dedicated to developing innovative software solutions. Understanding the requirements of AASB 138 is crucial for us as it governs how we report intangible assets, an area that includes patents, trademarks, and internally generated software. Today, we will concentrate specifically on the criteria that must be met for our internally generated software to be recognized as an intangible asset. So, as for AASB 138 overview, AASB 138 outlines the recognition, measurement, and disclosure processes for intangible assets. These assets can significantly impact our financial statements, especially in a dynamic technology market where the pace of change can affect valuation and the useful life of these assets. Let's now look closely at what criteria we must meet to recognize our internally generated software. So, as of initial recognition criteria, to recognize internally generated software, TI must meet 5 key conditions. So the first one is identifiability. The software must be uniquely identifiable, either separable or arising from contractual rights. This ensures its unique value is acknowledged in our financial reporting. Secondly is control. TI needs to have control over the software allows us to restrict others' access and ensuring we can realize the economic benefits from it. So thirdly is the future economic benefits. It is vital that we can demonstrate that the software is capable of generating future economic benefits. This could manifest in various ways, such as enhancing operational efficiencies, generating revenue, or reducing costs. So, in conclusion, for TI to successfully classify our internally generated software as an intangible asset under AASB 138, we must adhere to specific criteria regarding identifiability control, future economic benefits, the project's development phase, and the reliable measurement of associated costs. Abiding by these guidelines will not only ensure our compliance with AASB 138, but also uphold the integrity of our financial statements. So I will pass the next question to my teammate.
Hello everyone, I'm Lin Lin. After each we discuss the recognition and the measurement criteria for intangible assets, I'm going to talk about amortization and the methods of amortization for tech innovative companies' intangible assets. Amortization is defined in AASB 138 as the systematic allocation of the depreciable amount of an intangible asset over its useful life. An assessment is required in determining any amortization charge over the useful life. For intangible assets, it is important to take into account whether the useful life is finite or indefinite. Due to the distinguished nature of many intangible assets, the uncertainty of their anticipated useful lives, the residual value of intangible assets with infinite useful life is assumed to be zero. If the useful life of an intangible asset is assessed to be indefinite, there is no amortization expense for that asset. They will be tested for impairment when any indications of impairment arise. From the assumptions, we can see that most tangible assets have a finite useful life and need to be amortized, while some trademarks with an indefinite useful life have no amortization amortization expense, but need to be tested for impairment. Sichuan will discuss the impairment of assets later. The straight-line method, the diminishing balance method, and the units of production method can be used to systematically allocate depreciation to assets over their useful lives. The methods applied are based on the anticipated pattern of consumption of the estimated future economic benefits reflected in the assets and are applied consistently over time, except where the anticipated pattern of consumption of those future economic benefits has changed. Elements to be considered in deciding the most appropriate amortization method are similar to those to be considered when applying depreciation to PPE. For example, an entity may use the sum of the digits method, in which amortization reflects the consumption of higher benefits in the early years of an asset's useful life, because this is a variant of the diminishing balance method. But in practice, entities seldom use the diminishing balance method for amortization. For intangible assets, one reason is the uncertainty of future economic benefits expected to be generated over the next few years, and the difficulty distinguishing them from the cash flows from assets generated within the business. For tech-innovative companies' intangible assets, where the company's benefit pattern is undetermined with certainty, the straight-line method should be used. This method allocates the cost of an asset on an average basis over its useful life, which will provide some consistency and comparability in the calculations. Internally generated software should be amortized over its estimated useful life by using the straight-line method. Technological developments, such as the replacement of current software by new software, and the impact of competitors' software, can affect the useful life of software, which should be regularly reviewed and estimated.
Next, let's talk about question 3 and question 4. So first, I will discuss the potential indicators of impairment for Technovate Ltd's patents and the trademarks, as well as the appropriate testing process under AASB 136. Given the highly competitive and fast-evolving technology market, there are both external and internal indicators that could suggest impairments. Externally, rapid innovation may decrease the demand for Technovate's patents technologies or reduce the relevance of its trademarks. New competitors might offer better or more affordable alternatives, leading to a drop in market share or revenue expectations. Internally, we must also be allied to signs such as technological obsolescence, declining performance of products tied to these intangible assets, or major strategic changes like restructuring or discontinuation of product lines. In terms of the process, AASB 136 requires several key steps. First, we must identify the appropriate cash-generating units, that is, the smallest group of assets that generates independent cash inflows. Then we estimate the recoverable amount, being the higher of fair value, less cost of disposal, and value in use. If the carrying amount of the assets exceed this recoverable amount, an impairment loss must be recognized immediately. Lastly, all key assumptions and methodologic used in the impairment assessment should be documented and disclosed. This early review and the immediate action when indicators arise ensures that our financial statement reflect a true and fair view of our intangible assets. Let's move on to how Technovate Ltd should disclose its intangible assets under ASB 138. It is critical that the company provides transparent, detailed disclosures for each category of intangible assets. Patents, trademarks, and internally generates software. For each class, we must disclose the carrying amount at the beginning and the end of the reporting period. The accumulated amortization, and any accumulated impairment losses. We must also describe the amortization method used, confirm whether the assets have finite or indefinite useful lives, and indicate which line items in the statement of profit or loss include amortization expenses. When it comes to internally generated software, additional disclosure is needed, including the nature of the software, the development costs that have been capitalized, and the distinction between research and the development phases. Since research cost must be expensed. Furthermore, if any intangible assets has an indefinite useful life, such as some trademarks, we must clearly explain the reasons behind this classification. If an impairment loss has been recognized, we are required to disclose the event leading to impairment, how the recoverable amount was determined, and the key assumptions used, especially if value in use models were applied. By following these disclosure requirements, Technovate ensures transparency, companies falling with accounting standards, and strengthens investor confidence in its financial reports. Thanks.